Good evening. For WRCO News, I'm Joanne Krulotz. The Wisconsin Department of Transportation hosted a ribbon cutting for the new Wisconsin 130 bridges over the Wisconsin River in Lone Rock. The effort was a $40 million multi-year project. Wisconsin DOT Secretary Christina Boardman emphasized the importance of this project.
As we mark the completion of this multi-year project, we look forward to improved safety for all that travel this area. Highways 130 and 133 come together as a connection point for people traveling between the three counties. The busy highways are used by commuters and tourists, but this corridor is also important for freight and agricultural traffic, keeping essential goods moving throughout the region. We're proud to revitalize this critical link with a safer, more reliable infrastructure. These two stunning new bridges replace decades-old structures that reached the end of their service life. The project also reconstructed Highway 133 with comprehensive safety innovations to protect the travelers, including a guardrail and a concrete barrier wall that is designed to reduce crashes and prevent rock falls on the roadway. These were urgent safety needs for the community of Lone Rock and all those that pass through the area.
As part of the Riverway Board, Director Mark Cupp explained that the Riverway Board is statutorily required to work with the Department of Transportation and the Department of Natural Resources on highway bridge projects such as the Highway 130 bridges.
Therefore, we began working with DOT planners and designers early in the process, looking at alternatives to the existing alignment and focusing on the Highway 14 bridge at Spring Green for some of the design elements related to aesthetic treatments. Clearly, avoiding the rock wall at the south terminus of the bridge was an important feature. Minimizing wetland impacts and impacts on aquatic and terrestrial species of concern and habitats also were important. And then the aesthetics of a major bridge crossing the Wisconsin River. Cooperatively working as a team between different federal, state, and local governmental agencies, private sector contractors and consultants, the new design build format, challenging river flows up and down with records for high flows and low flows in each of the last 2 years. We have arrived at this day, at this hour, to dedicate the new bridges across the Wisconsin River at Lone Rock, connecting Iowa County to Richland and Sauk counties. A historic and glorious day indeed.
Following the ribbon cutting, the Lone Rock Fire, EMS, Richland County Sheriff's Department, and Iowa County Sheriff's Department held a small parade to commemorate the official opening of the bridge. PTSD, suicide, mental health, and all these are issues facing the veteran population this Veterans Day. Tim Cody with the Fox Valley Veterans Council said homelessness is also a primary concern.
We find them hopefully before they're homeless, as our real goal is to try to keep them in their place for 2 to 3 months so that they can straighten their life out, get a direction to go, and keep them where they are.
Cody said statistically in Wisconsin, veterans are more likely than the general population to become homeless. A bomb cyclone is a low-pressure system that quickly gets very powerful. That was the type of storm that hit the Northland on November 10th in 1975. It's the historic storm that sank the SS Edmund Fitzgerald in 25-foot waves created by 50-knot hurricane-force winds. Now, 49 years after the tragedy, a few people are trying to get a Wisconsin historical marker to commemorate the Fitz leaving from Superior, her last port of call. A plaque like this cost $8,000 and will be put up on Barker's Island, not far from the Superior entry the Fitzgerald left on that fateful day. 2025 will be the year of the Fitz in Superior, and the marker will be up by the 50th anniversary. In young voters under 30 years old, there was a significant change in statistics. Exit polling shows Vice President Kamala Harris won young voters in Wisconsin 53 to 45% against President-elect Donald Trump. That's a drop from a much wider margin in the 2020 election. Joe Biden won that group 59 to 36%. In past years, experts say the younger voters leaned more liberal, but it was not as big of a gap this year in Wisconsin as it has always been. When a new charter school opens in Wisconsin, there's about a 50-50 chance that it closes within the next 5 years. Here's Savannah Tomei Olson.
Wisconsin has one of the higher closure rates in the U.S. for charter schools. A new report from the Center for Charter School Accountability shows nationally 25% of them close within the first 5 years. Here in Wisconsin, it's over 45%. Charter schools get public funding but are usually run by private entities. They're often billed as alternatives for families who want more options. But what do you do when that school you handpicked is set to close? Jenny Hofschulte of the Wisconsin Public Education Network.
That's 45% of those families put into a lurch and having to make pivots and new choices for their children.
She says traditional public schools are happy to welcome these kids back, but local districts often have to move really fast to place them. Wisconsin currently has more than 200 registered charter schools.
Are there more than 10,000 additives in U.S. food products? Wisconsin Watch checked this claim. Here's Tricia Young with more.
U.S. Senator Ron Johnson claimed in September that he heard that there were 10,000, quote, ingredients, unquote, allowed in U.S. food. The FDA estimates over 10,000 chemicals are authorized, including food additives and colorants. In 2011, the Institute of Food Technologists reported 66% were agency approved, with manufacturers deeming the rest safe without FDA review. Lead researcher Thomas Neltner now estimates the count has risen to 11,000 chemicals. I'm Tricia Young for Wisconsin Watch. Learn more at wisconsinwatch.org.
New CDC data shows 3 out of every 4 high school students nationwide say they've experienced at least one adverse childhood event. That can include experiencing homelessness, abuse, and parental separation. Civic Media's Savannah Tomei Olson reports.
Research shows that adverse childhood experiences, they abbreviate them as ACEs, can alter a child's brain chemistry. It can even produce a prolonged, sometimes lifelong, toxic stress response. Licensed psychologist Joe Barr-Jones says we see the same thing here in Wisconsin.
That increased sense of loneliness, isolation in our youth, increased levels of suicide ideation, exposure to violence, exposure to adverse childhood experiences.
Experiencing at least one ACE as a child is linked to having alcohol and substance use problems as an adult, as well as chronic diseases like diabetes and obesity. And childhood trauma is expensive. According to the National Governors Association, adults with ACEs can lead to billions of dollars in healthcare costs and lost productivity. The Wisconsin Department of Public Instruction has its Trauma Sensitive Schools initiative, which helps educators support kids who have had these experiences.
Average gas prices continue to fall, dropping 3.4 cents over the last week. The average across the state today is $2.81 per gallon. This is 25.5 cents lower than a month ago and over 28 cents lower than this time last year. Officials at Gas Buddies say the average in the U.S. is the lowest since 2021 at $2.95 per gallon. This was anticipated in Gas Buddies' official annual fuel outlook from December of 2023. Prices have been dropping for 4 consecutive weeks as seasonal demand weakens. Elections have come and gone, but gas prices have stayed the course. Officials say prices could continue to drop as we get closer to Thanksgiving. The Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources is again reminding residents to use local firewood this fall to help curb the spread of invasive species. According to DNR officials, moving untreated firewood to different areas is one of the most common ways invasive species like the spongy moth and emerald ash borer spread. To combat that spread, the DNR has implemented a state spongy moth quarantine prohibiting the movement of firewood to counties on Wisconsin's western border and banning firewood from more than 10 miles away in state parks. National conservationists are working to protect some of the state's oldest trees. The U.S. Forest Service has put together the National Old Growth Amendment that would help protect what are called old growth forests. The goal is to conserve and restore mature forest conditions on federal land. Wisconsin-based forestry consultant Jeff Nisa supports expanding the acreage, describing it as an underrepresented landscape in the Badger State.
Foresters have a long-range perspective on managing ecosystems, not just trees, and we have a better concept of what we started with if we have saved all the pieces in some of our forest ecosystems and types.
Wisconsin has some federal land with old-growth forest up in the Northwoods and toward Michigan's Upper Peninsula. We know the importance of having health insurance for ourselves and our children, But did you know you can also get insurance for your pets? Here's Melissa Kay.
The Better Business Bureau of Wisconsin is advising pet owners to know what they're agreeing to before signing up. Pet insurance policies can vary greatly in price and coverage. The BBB says to get to know the different types of plans, decide how much coverage you need, compare prices and plans, and read the fine print. You also want to check if there's a waiting period and insure your pet when they're young and healthy. You can potentially get the best deal if you ask about discounts for multiple pets or annual payments instead of paying monthly. You should also plan for premium increases as your pet ages. If pet insurance doesn't seem feasible, consider setting up an emergency fund for your pet instead and start saving. You can find out more at bbb.org. I'm Melissa Kay, Civic Media News.
The latest winners in the Ithaca Football Boosters calendar raffle. On Saturday, Janie Hefner. Sunday's winner was Andy Reinhardt, and today's winner is Lisa Baumkamp.